When it comes to the Espada rankings, there are 4 individuals among them that are incredibly contentious in terms of the actual scaling of power throughout this group, and has led to a lot of confusion among the Bleach fandom as to who was in fact the strongest Espada at the end of the Aizen saga. The characters in relation to this topic are Barragan, Stark, Yami, and Ulquiorra. In discussion around these Espada, people seem to forget many things that happened in the series, like Ulquiorra having a hidden transformation, and this clearly makes him much stronger than just the sole rank of 4, which is displayed on his chest. We have Yami being the rank of 0, which was a secret all along, which was also shown to us very clearly and said by Yami himself, or many of the battles which took place and slapped into our faces what was happening, like a lot of the things to do with Ichigo and how Ulquiorra scales to his Vasto Lorde form. Yet, people still forget these events even happened, and even things like how Aizen stated he had pre-planned each fight among particular Espada to help develop Ichigo's inner hollow, hinder the Soul Society's chances of winning the war, and to see what would become of someone who is a Shinigami, Hollow, and Quincy all in one. Though once again, people forget these very simple scenes which Tite Kubo had laid out for us all even happened. Ulquiorra's cipher is quite easy to scale among the series of Bleach, and as the thumbnail and title suggests, he will be the main focus of this video, as all of his battles in the series are very cut and dry alongside databook statements and things said directly by characters in the series alongside statements by the actual author. Most of what I will talk about in this video frankly doesn't even need to be explained, though I will anyway to hopefully cement this video as the definitive scale of Ulquiorra's cipher in Bleach. So let's clear up some of the downplay people use towards Ulquiorra, as I've never been the biggest fan of Ulquiorra. I personally always preferred Grimmjow, but the stuff that people say about him, or just use to downplay Ulquiorra in general and some of the Espada, is just downright So, I hope by doing so, this shows I have no bias towards Ulquiorra as a character, just merely a big issue with some of the people who talk about Bleach. Almost every single time someone brings this scene up, I almost have an aneurysm on the spot from how silly it is to use this, especially given the context of the scene itself. Ulquiorra says this after he tanked a fully holified Getsuga Tensho from Ichigo in base form, takes 0 damage from the attack except for his clothing getting torn. He then fires a casual Zero, which almost kills Ichigo and Nell in one shot. Though it does knock out Kid Nell, Ulquiorra then chases both of them, followed by him kicking Ichigo into one of the concrete pillars with ease. Ichigo, although beaten very badly, doesn't give up, and Ulquiorra is shocked by this, to which Ichigo then states, "You're the leader of the Espadas, right? So if I beat you, this war's as good as won." Ulquiorra then follows up by showing him that he is only ranked number 4, and uses this to destroy Ichigo's willpower. He wants to humiliate him, and does this again during their later battles. For Ulquiorra to blurt out that he has a second release form there and then would not only be incredibly stupid, but he thought Ichigo's strength was mediocre, and for him to expose his second release form when there is 0 need to, and he believes even Aizen doesn't know about the form, is once again stupid, and goes against him hiding it until later. What he said to Ichigo was clearly a lie. Now, Aizen definitely did know about Ulquiorra's second release form, as he is the one that bestowed the Espada with release states that were based on Shinigami powers using the Hogyoku, and in his monologue where he talks about Ulquiorra fighting Ichigo, it's shown Aizen has a mental image of the form, but he makes no comment about it being a surprise, further backing Aizen's statement that he anticipated the Vasto Lorde would fight Ulquiorra, and he even makes a statement about Ichigo being in the form. Although he hasn't seen the much stronger version of the Vasto Lorde that appears against Ulquiorra, even the version of Ichigo's inner hollow that fought Isshin in the flashback to show how Isshin actually met Masaki Kurosaki should be among some of the strongest Espada, even possibly stronger than all of them. Isshin being an exceptionally strong Shinigami who, as a royal, actually has more spiritual pressure than a normal Shinigami, this would explain why he can tango with Aizen and tag him even in his Silver Surfer mode after having not used his Shinigami powers for such a long time. So far, there isn't much evidence to actually imply that Ishin is stronger then than he was in the flashback. And once again, the version of the Hollow that he fought was actually weaker than the one that fought Ulquiorra, as it had not only become stronger after being in Ichigo for so long and developed, but it was also not even at full strength due to the fact that the Shihakusho it was wearing was half ripped, meaning its spiritual pressure wasn't even at max. You might say this is irrelevant, but in a lot of art where they actually show Ichigo's full hollow form, it is shown multiple times him wearing the full Bankai Shihakusho, and when he is actually training to reach his Dongai form so he can use the Mugetsu, once again the hollow appears wearing the full Shihakusho rather than half of one, meaning it is actually a thing, which is also clarified when Ichigo speaks to Inohana. Now, the royal statement that I actually made about Ishin before, in relation to his spiritual pressure and him not being some random Joe Blow captain, this would explain why, he's so strong and is still able to fight against someone like Aizen, who is a bit of an anomaly in terms of Soul Reaper strength, and also the fact that Ishin is relative to an Aizen who goes through Hogyoku transformations. I just really want to stress that the whole royal spiritual pressure thing is actually quite important, and this also explains why Byakuya was so strong against Yami, and Ichigo could only blitz Byakuya in the Soul Society arc while in Bankai because he was being fed spiritual pressure by Zangetsu and the Hollow. If you actually doubt this and think that it's not true, Ulquiorra says that Ichigo's power fluctuates so much from the Hollow taking over his body that it even surpasses his own. So to argue against that would be very dumb, as when we see the Hollow actually take over against Byakuya, the difference in strength is insane. So hopefully that clears up some of the confusion as to why Byakuya goes from Soul Society Bankai Ichigo level to fighting against Somari, and then Yami, and then so on and so forth. But as I said before about the whole Ulquiorra scene where he claims that the Espada above him are stronger and he's only rank 4, once again the only reason he shows him his second release in the second fight is to complete and utterly obliterate his confidence while showing him true despair and that he was lying in the first encounter. This should go without saying, but the rankings are incredibly inconsistent among the series, and the rankings which were originally shown to us clearly don't exist because of Ulquiorra and Yami. To put it as simple as possible, Ulquiorra's second release puts him far above someone like Hallibell. To argue against this is not only absolutely idiotic, but why would Tite Kubo place such an emphasis on the battle with Ichigo, where Ulquiorra says it is a secret form, clearly following up on the talk they had prior about the Espada above him. He is showing Ichigo this form to not only humiliate him and destroy his morale, but to show he is in fact stronger than the rank of 4. Of all the Espadas, only I have achieved a second stage release. This is consistent with his personality because he tried scaring Ichigo with the idea that the Espada above him were miles stronger than him. So he wanted to show Ichigo that level of power to his face, or something even greater. An interesting side note to add fuel to this is when Ulquiorra and Yami first land in the world of the living. Ulquiorra states there are only 3 individuals that could actually give them a decent fight on the entire planet. Those 3 are Kisuke Urahara, Kurosaki Ishin, and Shihoen Yoruichi. Now, Ichigo you would assume is one of the 3 aforementioned individuals, but they were only there to actually see how strong Ichigo is, whereas they already had the pretense that the 3 they mentioned are a legitimate threat, whereas Ichigo they were unsure about. If you say replace Ishin or Yoruichi with Ichigo individually, then it's still a very good statement for Ulquiorra and Yami. They're being scaled to characters like Yoruichi, Ishin, Ichigo, and Urahara. Now, of course, setting Ichigo aside, the other 3 are what makes the statement so impressive. Not only do the databooks state an interesting thing here, but so does Ulquiorra. He and the databooks claim that Yami and himself were not in a position to be worried even after Urahara and Yoruichi arrived. In fact, Ulquiorra seems so confident in his ability to actually fight Urahara and Yoruichi, as he not only blocks an attack with one hand while the other is in his pocket and slaps it away, which neutralized Yami's previous fired Zero, and this one was intended to most likely kill him. He then replies to Yoruichi's statement about them, quote, running away, and tells her to not get cocky as she knows what would happen if they were to actually fight. Now, a lot of you would say straight away, what about the fact that Yami took damage from Ichigo, who was only in Bankai at the time? Well, there's 2 issues here, and that's the fact that according to Ulquiorra's words, Yami at this stage in the story wouldn't have a chance against Urahara and Yoruichi, which is great because later on he does get stronger, which also so does Ulquiorra. Another thing that Ulquiorra also says is that Yami is quite a novice when it comes to using Pesquisa, Pesquisa and Sonido. A lot of people don't know this, but Pesquisa is not just used for being able to react to attacks as Ulquiorra uses it against the Vasto Lorde, but it's also used to gauge how strong enemies' strength is, something of which Yami is not able to do. To explain this as quick as possible, the reason Yami had his arm cut off by this Ichigo who was only in Bankai was because of his lack of ability with Pesquisa. He was not only unable to gauge Ichigo's attack potency and level of spiritual pressure, but this resulted in him not defending himself correctly by making his hero stronger with his own spiritual pressure so he could tank Ichigo's attack. Ulquiorra even says that Yami should have analyzed the situation more before engaging Ichigo, and that he should have perfected his Pesquisa because then he would have known how strong he actually is, therefore he could have avoided or blocked the attack correctly. The Pesquisa being something of which I will talk about a bit later on. Now, although this version of Yami isn't very impressive, Yoruichi badly damages herself from actually hitting him multiple times, something the data books put a lot of stress towards, alongside even her who says that she should have used her Shunko form to actually hit him, therefore she probably wouldn't have taken so much damage, but even still, pretty crazy, especially considering what I said before where he wasn't even defending himself correctly. The point I'm trying to make here is that it's very clear how strong Taite Kubo was implying these two to be, and it's obvious why Aizen has these two as a pair. Not only are they the two secret strongest Espada by rank, and they have secret release forms, but if Ulquiorra and Yami scale to the Vasto Lorde, which at this stage should be much stronger than an Isshin, who was arguably weaker than when he fought the original weaker version of the Hollow, the same Isshin that can fight Aizen and tag him in his Hogyoku release forms, then this puts Ulquiorra and Yami not only above the Espada, but in this echelon of fighters in the series. Aizen actually states that he was expecting Ichigo to be even stronger than he was when he appeared, and this would imply that the Hollow is something that could possibly contest him. Remember, one of the plot points for Aizen was that he was hopefully looking for someone who could defeat him in battle. Ichigo clarifies this because he can feel sadness from crossing blades with him, and it seems that Aizen all along just wanted a competitive fight. And if you still doubt that Aizen narrative point, Aizen was already aware of how strong the original Vasto Lorde was, and he was expecting it to evolve over time, which he was fully aware of, and the same goes with the Espada and others. We've been shown countless times that people do get stronger as they go through many fights. So once again, Aizen is completely aware of the Vasto Lorde's power and what it could actually end up being in terms of strength, and considering that he is the one that gave all the powers to the Espada and he knows how strong they are individually, you guys should be able to put two and two together. Now, as a follow-up to what Ulquiorra said about him currently not being as strong as he should be at that point in the story, we know for a fact that Yami actually increases in power and size, as noted by Chad and the others when he fights against them, and Grimmjow and Urahara actually state that you can get boosts in power after every fight that you partake in, like Zenkai boost from Dragon Ball. This also isn't a crazy thing to consider because at the very start of the series it said that normal Vasto Lorde, who haven't even been given upgrades by Aizen, are so much of a threat that they can surpass captains in power, and due to Ulquiorra and Yami being special cases who are light years above just the normal everyday Vasto Lorde that you may run into in Wako Mundo, you see what I'm getting here. They are much stronger than they actually are. The other reason why the rankings are not consistent at all is, well, yeah, Yami and his zero rank exists. That's all I really need to say about that. So a lot of people like the idea that Barragan would clap any Espada in a one-on-one fight even if they are above him in rank, solely because of his respira ability, which ages anything from objects, flesh, to even energy-based attacks like Keto and Hado. Now here's the issue. If the ability was in fact that deadly, Barragan would absolutely be ranked number one among the Espada, because unlike the Quincy's, who have a lot of very hacks and intricate abilities, the Espadas don't really have that many counter abilities or hacks type abilities compared to even Barragan or the Quincy's. You know, on average they tend to be very cut and dry, physical based attack characters. You could follow up by saying, well, he's probably just slower than Stark, so Stark wins in that regard in the rankings, or Stark has more spiritual pressure, which is not only stated but backed up in the data books when it states that he can fire infinite Ceros, and also he is given a statement in the data books which clarify that he actually has one of the fastest Sonidos in base, where Stark actually Sonidos from one of the towers in Los Noches all the way down to where Ichigo and Kenpachi are. He steals Orihime, flashes out of the way of both of them swinging at him at the same time, and is able to Sonido his way all the way to a distance which is comparable from going to Montreal to New York in the snap of a finger. But Stark's speed and spiritual pressure shouldn't even be a factor, because Barragan can slow down his opponent's attacks, age them, and his ability would be by default more useful than a man who can just sling Ceros all day, compared to an ability which once again can age literally anything. Many people assume that Barragan was given the rank 2/1, which is kind of weird because he was the previous quote king of Hueco Mundo, meaning that wouldn't he already be the strongest by default? And you know, Aizen and him had beef, and Aizen did this to hurt his pride. Well, sadly, this is never once touched upon in the story, other than the fact that Barragan really dislikes him for taking Hueco Mundo from him. One thing that is actually touched upon, however, is the way that spiritual pressure and abilities actually function among the series.
A Soul Reaper battle involves spirit energy. I can easily overwhelm your silly power by accessing my own spirit energy.
If the Espada are based off of Shinigami as Urahara stated, and they not only transform but fight exactly as Shinigami do, we can assume they also operate with spiritual pressure the same way as Shinigami do too. Meaning characters like Stark, Ulquiorra, and Yami could all negate Barragan's aging ability with their spiritual pressure by default. Udiu notes that Ulquiorra's second release spiritual pressure is so heavy and dark that it feels like it's alien, as if it's not even a power that's from the reality that he lives in. Now going back to the Aizen scene, if Aizen can do this to Soifon, who has a death hacks ability, and the same rules apply to Espadas, then this Barragan would be dealt with kind of easy when it comes to Espada who are ranked above him or have more spiritual pressure than him. Or if you use Ulquiorra as an example, he is so much faster and has more destructive capability than Barragan that he could move faster than the Respira ability, and he could stand very far away and spam Lanzadel Relampagos at him until he dies, as those attacks make Soifon's Bankai look like a firecracker in comparison, and the attack potency of the Lanzadel Relampago would be monstrously higher. Gin also basically confirms word for word that the Espada don't follow Aizen because of his hypnosis ability, but because he would absolutely destroy them with raw power. If Barragan's ability was that dangerous, why didn't he just destroy everything around him and keep Aizen away from him? It's very clear why, because the ability can be negated by higher spiritual pressure. I usually don't like to use the Aizen statement about the spiritual pressure stuff because I'm a little bit skeptical that that was even Aizen that was hit by the Suzume Bachi, because when he makes that statement, it turns out that his body is standing on the other side of the city, and it just seems silly for him to even risk getting hit by that attack, but that's just a bit of skepticism. Regardless, it doesn't contradict what I just said anyway, because Gin confirms all the stuff that I just said. An interesting thing I want to spend time in this video talking about that many people don't actually know about is the two aspects of power that Zombari and Nnoitra have alongside Ulquiorra. These are special abilities that certain individual Espada actually have, which the others can't use. Something which was prevalent in the earlier episodes and chapters of Bleach, where Hollows were like stands and had individual powers. Grand Fisher could shape his ability into a projection of people he had killed in the past, therefore he was able to show Ichigo his mother. Shrieker had homing minions that could explode from an audio signal emitted by his tongue, and Ardenierro could shapeshift into Hollows or people he killed and use their powers to a T, as confirmed by the databooks. Zombari's specialty was not only his incredibly hacks eye ability in his release state, but he claimed to have the fastest Sonido of all Espada, something which the databooks also confirm. And Nnoitra was listed as having the hardest hero of all Espada. Now, this should be pretty clear, but Ulquiorra far surpasses Zombari in speed because this ability only applies to their base forms, another thing that a lot of people don't actually understand.
Hermelos Sonido. Among all the Espadas, my Sonido is the fastest.
Zombari's speed does not seem to actually increase in his release state, or even to a notable degree at all, and Nnoitra's Hierro doesn't increase in durability when he goes into his release form. Kenpachi actually never notes his skin getting tougher, just that he now has to cut off more of his arms, and this is somewhat annoying. Whereas Ulquiorra's speed after going into Resurrection drastically increases alongside his defense and attack potency. When Ulquiorra goes into his first Resurrection, he is able to completely blitz Ichigo to the point where he can throw a lance, and within the span of Ichigo's neurons firing and his eyes perceive the attack, and he is able to slightly move his head just the right amount to avoid the lance by a hair, a second lance is then thrown within that time span. He actually asks Ichigo to fire a fully holified Getsuga Tensho at him, and this Ichigo has gotten considerably stronger after his battle with Grimmjow, and the Zenkai statement I mentioned earlier, which Grimmjow makes a note of. Yet Ulquiorra is able to completely take the attack head on with his spiritual pressure alone, and it never even touches him. Another compliment to Ulquiorra's speed is that Nnoitra thinks Ichigo in Bankai, while he is almost dead after fighting Grimmjow, is actually a threat to him. Yet Ulquiorra takes the steaming on his speed in base form, and this Ichigo is once again much stronger and is 5 through 10 times faster than he was against Nnoitra, if not more, because he is healed and holified, all thanks to the Zenkai boost. Now, Nell and Kenpachi also don't help Noitora's case of having the quote hardest Hierro beyond his base form, because he claimed no one could cut him, but was blitzed by a Nell who was, according to their conversation, most likely the rank of around 5 in strength, as she was not only surpassed by the other Espada around her rank when it comes to power due to the time skip, but she is also fighting at what could be considered half her strength, or maybe some random percentage like 70/80. It's pretty hard to quantify because her mask was cracked and leaking spiritual pressure throughout the entire fight with Nnoitra. At full strength without being injured, she might be the rank of 4 in power, meaning she only drops one number in rank during the time between when Nnoitra cracked her mask and the time she spent as a toddler. But that seems to be a highball because Nnoitra complimented Bankai Ichigo's speed, who was almost dead at the time and had basically no spiritual pressure, yet he still defended multiple attacks from Nnoitra intended to kill him, alongside being able to outspeed Nnoitra. And Ulquiorra in his base form can outspeed a healed, fully holified Ichigo. Also to mention, if you want to use Kenpachi, that doesn't work because you can't even quantify how strong he is at this point in the story when it comes to the fight between himself and Nnoitra, as his power fluctuates from getting tagged and hurt way more than even Nell did against Nnoitra, to being second release Yami level, and in the words of Unohana, he was holding himself back considerably, possibly even to a fully healed Bankai Ichigo level, which would be a consistent power range given the time skip before where he lost to a weaker Shikai Ichigo than the one that appeared on Sokyoku Hill, went Bankai, and now has a Bankai which is even stronger than that Bankai which was used in the Byakuya fight, and he also has a holification which is stronger than that, and while he was fatigued and only in Bankai, he impressed Nnoitra. So not only does that sort of put the nail in the coffin with the idea that Nell is around the rank of 4, she seems to be more around the rank of 5-ish in power, especially because she's not at full power, but all of those multipliers and how much that Kenpachi's holding himself back just really don't help the case of her being stronger than that. She has to be around the rank of 5. And all it took for Kenpachi to basically defeat Nnoitra was him placing his other hand onto his sword, and he almost killed him in one blow. Once more, holding him back considerably because he just wanted an entertaining fight. Something pretty cool about Ulquiorra is that he could have actually been much stronger than he was in the story, but he chose to discard some of his spiritual pressure for his healing factor, which personally, I think he should have just put that spiritual pressure into his strength, because it would have most likely made him around Vasto Lord A Ichigo level, and basically no one in the series, except the higher tiers, would have been able to even cut him. So what's the use in healing when you can just never get injured in the first place? Prevention is better than a cure, as they say, and this is just further evidence to show that Ulquiorra was destined for greater feats than the others. But I guess only being able to heal everything except your brain and internal organs is kinda cool, and it does give him this weird eye ability where he can pull out his eye, crush it, and it allows him to project events that he's previously seen so others can view them. A few years back, Tite Kubo actually stated that in the Hellverse movie, the animation and retelling of the fight, which was shown at the start start of the movie between Ulquiorra and Vasto Lorde Ichigo was actually how he imagined the fight more than the way that he was able to draw it in the manga or how the anime version showcased the fight, which is great to hear because Tite Kubo has expressed many times in the past that he was so rushed during weekly chapters by Shonen Jump to meet deadlines that some weeks he was just happy to get a chapter completed, meaning even during such an important fight in the manga, he didn't even get to draw it in the complete way he wanted, which is once again great to hear in this instance because if the movie version of the fight is more true to how he wanted in his head, it further backs that Tite Kubo made Ulquiorra much stronger than he actually is by rank, and this isn't just skepticism as a fan. What's cool about the scene in the movie is that Ulquiorra is able to tag the Hollow and fight much more competitively, thus being a huge compliment to his speed, and the fact that the Vasto Lorde actually dodges his attacks multiple times means Ulquiorra can hurt him and actually does in the movie. In short, not only can Ulquiorra break out of pocket dimensions which were made by Aizen to seal Espada who have gone loose or rogue while he is in his base form, a feat which is later hyped up when Ichigo does it in Yukio's pocket dimension. Now, I'm not scaling Ulquiorra to that Ichigo, but it's still a cool feat nonetheless, and Grimmjow not only complements Ulquiorra's power and how fast he will be able to break out of that Kaha Negation, but he also uses the Kaha Negation on Ulquiorra out of fear to actually have to fight him. A quick compliment to Grimmjow, he does tank one of Ulquiorra's Ceros, but in the process of doing that, he almost loses his arm. Now, a lot of people are going to say, how is Ulquiorra above Yami when the data books state Yami is the strongest Espada and he doesn't react to Ulquiorra's second release form, whereas everybody else below the canopy does. Plus, you yourself did say that Yami is the strongest. Well, it's absolutely true that Yami is stronger than Ulquiorra, but the problem with Yami is that he is a glass cannon and is also incredibly bad at perceiving enemy spiritual pressure, alongside the fact that he is incredibly low in the intelligence department and is slow as hell. You'll notice throughout the series he continuously asks Ulquiorra multiple times how strong opponents are when they're facing off against them, and has borderline no ability to actually gauge an opponent's strength, as I said earlier. Ulquiorra tells him he needs to master his Pesquisa, but he doesn't. This would explain why Yami couldn't perceive Ulquiorra's second release form's full power, or even the Vasto Lorde which was above the canopy of Los Noches fighting Ulquiorra. He doesn't even react to it and also treats Kenpachi as if he is just some random Joe Blow Shinigami, like he doesn't realize how strong this guy is. Normally, I'd take his statement about him referring to Ulquiorra, Grimmjow, and the others as trash a little bit more direct, but not when you account for these facts. He can't even read Ulquiorra's level of power, a form which even he doesn't know about. People would usually assume he doesn't react because it doesn't impress him, but it's actually because he can't even comprehend Ulquiorra's power. The reason I am putting such an emphasis on this is because Ulquiorra might be able to actually tank Yami's Ceros and Ballas even if he's in his second release monkey form, as Ulquiorra takes a Cero which was meant to kill him directly to his body while he is expecting the attack to kill him, and he asks the Vasto Lorde to finish him off with this said attack, meaning he isn't even defending himself with his spiritual pressure, yet he still survives it, regenerates as much of his body as he can, then he Sonitos over to where the Vasto Lorde is while he's behind him, cuts off the Hollow's mask, saving Uryu and Orihime. Not only is Yami considerably slower than Ulquiorra, but he would never hit him with any of his attacks, and in truth he might not even be able to damage Ulquiorra. I want to stress this once more, but Espadas can make their heroes stronger based on how much spiritual pressure they place into their defense. We have seen a few times that Yami is incredibly bad at this and his ability to use Pesquisa, and has been cut by enemies that he shouldn't be cut by. This would explain why, although he has the strongest spiritual pressure and the most firepower, why is it that he has trouble making his heroes stronger than Nnoitra's is, whereas Ulquiorra can do it quite casually when he goes into his first and second release. Yami could barely catch Rukia, Renji, and Chad. Then when Kenpachi and Byakuya appeared, they made him look like an absolute idiot, and he was just pretty much blasting big Cero attacks that never hit any of them. And then even when he went into his second release, which should make him 100 times stronger than his base form, he gets off-screened. Like, just consider that, he gets off screened. You can give Yami some credit for fighting Ichigo, but that Ichigo is still miles weaker than second release Ulquiorra, as he has only half a Shihakusho on, his mask doesn't even work correctly, and in the words of Ichigo, feels heavier. And for Ichigo to get over 100 times increase in power after that fight while he has half a Shihakusho on and he can barely fight correctly is very silly. I have seen people claim that he's stronger than the Vasto Lorde afterwards, but that just makes no sense. Though even still, when Yami fights him, the only attacks that he can connect Ichigo with are actually Balas, which are 20 times faster than normal Seros and surpass his own combat speed. And even still, Ichigo is only caught due to his mask not working correctly, and he isn't at full strength. If Ulquiorra fought Yami, he would not only blitz Yami in his first and second release form, but he could atomize his body with his Seto Oscuras, which can multiply his attack potency by an order of magnitude, which can be around 5 through 10 plus times in power. And if that doesn't work, he has the Lanza del Relampago, which is even stronger than the Seto Oscuras. And in his fight with the Vasto Lorde, he uses the Lanza del Relampago after his Seto Oscuras is cancelled out by the Vasto Lorde's normal Seros. Now, I want to clarify something very quickly about the Vasto Lorde. The Vasto Lorde was not only not at full power because of the half Shihakusho that it was wearing, but in the battle, it never used a Granrei Sero, King's Granrei Sero, or any sort of Sero that is similar to Ulquiorra's Seto Oscuras. Whereas, let's say for example that the Seto Oscuras is a ability for Ulquiorra only, which so far it actually is. He is the only one with a Sero that can have its own multiplier. He is the only Hollow with a Sero that has its own multiplier that improves his power by an order of magnitude. Even still, we get to see that the Vasto Lorde wasn't even at full power. Like, no Granrei Sero, which would have an increase of its own, and the Shihakusho is ripped, just to clarify. So even if Yami has more attack power, Ulquiorra blitzes him in speed and has attacks that can multiply his own strength and can close the gap and then surpass Yami in strength. You can also say, well, Yami would just get stronger as the fight progresses and he would fight like the Hulk does, so over time he would eventually surpass Ulquiorra in power. If it was that easy, why didn't he just do that to Kenpachi and Byakuya? As for Ulquiorra's destructive capability, Ulquiorra not only scales to the Vasto Lorde, which you can get to planet level with calc stacking, multipliers, and wank, but it's confirmed in the Hellverse movie around 3 different times that it is a threat to the world, could destroy the planet, was even hyped up by Yamamoto, someone who, while suppressed, is casually planet level even while he's not at full power, and covered multiple layers of hell with a Sero Blast, which should be by default multi-planetary. Now, Ulquiorra absolutely should be at least planetary because not only does his Sero negate the Vasto Lorde Seros, and vice versa, they have a very back and forth battle, but his Lanza del Relampago is even stronger than the Seros that he uses to clash with the Vasto Lorde Seros by quite a lot. The same Lanza del Relampago that dwarfs Los Noches in size, a place where Ulquiorra, merely by going first release, would destroy it without purposely doing so. And the inside of Los Noches is actually a pocket dimension which is so large that it has its own curvature on the inside and a light source from an artificial sun. This is a fact that a lot of people completely don't realize and instead scale the Espada and their attack potency to the outside of Los Noches, which is smaller than the inside due to the things I mentioned and are displayed. Usually a lot of people actually scale the outside of the castle to being anywhere from large city level to close to the size of some countries. So the inside being the size that I just said is not only true, but it actually makes the Espada look way more impressive than they were previously believed to be. Another cool little fact among the series is that Shikai Ichigo was told to be careful with his spiritual pressure by Shinji, as it could be felt across the entire planet and would most likely alert hollows which are hanging around in pocket dimensions around the world. Now, I'm not saying Shikai Ichigo is planetary, please don't interpret what I just said in that sense, but the fact that he can affect things with his spiritual pressure that far away, he blocked the Sokyoku, which has the power of around 3 million Zanpakuto, was said to be able to destroy the Soul Society, a direct reflection of Earth, and can overwhelm all things in existence with its spiritual pressure. And it would actually need to be that strong anyway to execute most high level threats in the Bleach universe on the podium, because when you think about it logically, they've been dealing with threats gets like Yuha and captains who surpass even some of the current captains back in those days, so it's not very far-fetched to assume that those feats are quite consistent. A lot of people would say, well, the Eisen letter is actually fake, but why would the feat about it being able to destroy the Soul Society be a lie? Because the others never contest that. Like, the captain seemed to be incredibly surprised when Ichigo blocks it, so to just claim that that little detail in the letter is a lie, it just seems silly because the feat isn't inconsistent. It's just a little detail that Eisen adds to his note. I don't think that deserves it being discredited. If he was to say that the sky is blue in his note, does that mean that it's a lie? No. And anyway, Ulquiorra is easily 1,000 times stronger than that Ichigo in second release due to the multipliers he gets in his release forms. If you want to lowball it to 100 times, really doesn't make much of a difference, but it just means that Ulquiorra is bare minimum. I'm not going to wank him to like galaxy level or some insane thing like that, but he is just bare minimum planet level. Like, there's a lot of evidence to imply it, and it's pretty consistent, especially with all the evidence I've provided. I think I've been very thorough with this. Not to mention he is also massively FTL, something of which I've talked about in previous videos, but most characters in the series are anyway, so it's not really worth mentioning. It's just a cool note in terms of speed. He's very fast. Ulquiorra is without a doubt the strongest Espada pre-time skip, and this is exactly why he was sent on more missions and was trusted by Eisen more than any Espada. It's very clear that he was given particular power-ups by not only Eisen, but Tite Kubo, and was used as a very important particular plot device for a reason. Eisen knew that he would have to fight the Vasto Lorde, and in the words of Ulquiorra, to Eisen, this is all a game. If you are in need of a brand new VPN service, then look no further than Surfshark, providing unlimited simultaneous connections for all your devices, which no other VPNs actually do, for maximum security. Speaking of security, I'd venture to say that you guys would hate it a lot if you were to go out into public, or you're on a holiday and you're staying at a hotel, and then you have a hacker get into your computer, phone, tablet, or any of your devices and take all of your sensitive info, with you being none the wiser. Well, guess what? Surfshark has got you covered no matter where you are or what you're doing. You could be in Dubai, London, Sydney, and be 100% completely safe. Which, if you do want to go to these places, or places like these, but find ticket prices to be absolutely, a wallet cleaner, way overpriced than they actually should be, try putting your VPN to different countries to avoid the price discrimination many planes, hotels, booking portals, and car rental providers put on. You'll be shocked at how much you can actually save by doing this. Now, while you're in countries like, let's say, China, Cuba, Iran, or any of the countries out there that have a lot of these super over-the-top censorship, you can actually avoid these crummy internet censorships by using this fantastic service, all thanks to Surfshark. So go ahead and click the link in the description below, use code Clyde, it's that simple, just code Clyde, and save yourself 83% on this service, as well as you get one whole free month of this VPN service, completely free, one whole month, just from signing up with these guys. So this VPN is normally $286 for a whole year, but with my promo code, it'll only be $47 for a whole year. Like, that's insane. Anyway, it would really help me out wonders if you were to go to the description, go download the actual VPN, go sign up for them. They're a really cool sponsor. They made this video possible, and I'm actually super proud to have them on my channel. So big shout out to Surfshark VPN. Thank you so much for sponsoring the video. And once more, guys, go check them out in the description below.